Hi, I'm Brolin, CPA, Certified Fraud Examiner, and the author of the Designated Motivator for Accounting Professionals. Today's episode of the DM Disruption is brought to you by SmartVault, my go-to solution for secure, completely paperless document storage. SmartVault was built for the unique needs of accounting professionals with bank-level security, completely customizable folder structures, plus native integrations with tax software such as Lacert and ProSeries, as well as popular practice management tools. It even has an integration with DocuSign right in the software for maximum efficiency. I've been using SmartVault to keep my practice running paperlessly and profitably for more than 10 years. That's why I consider them an MVP in my Team Brolin starting lineup. Check them out and get a demo at smartvault.com today. Hey everybody, and welcome to the DM Disruption. I'm here, my name is Dawn Brolin. I'm a CPA and a Certified Fraud Examiner, and I'm out here trying to help educate other practitioners to improve their processes, improve their lives in some capacity, if that's possible. And I have the honor, I would say, of having John Coleman with Commonwealth Business Services with me here today on the DM Disruption. John has an amazing story. I'm wearing a vintage SmartVault t-shirt. This episode of the DM Disruption sponsored by SmartVault. And we're going to talk about SmartVault today because SmartVault sounds like may have helped John in some capacity in his life. So John, introduce yourself, tell us all about yourself, and then we'll get into the story.
Hi, well, my name is John Coleman. I live in Central Virginia. We're in a little town called Fredericksburg, which is equidistant between Washington, D.C. and Richmond. And I have a firm. We have about 14 people. There's some part-timers, some full-timers, and we do tax and bookkeeping. And the only reason why I'm here is basically because of a fluke that happened. I had taken some classes. It was a training for some other software back in February of 2021. And, as you count up your CPE and December, you go, okay, yeah, I took that. So, but I didn't have a certificate from these people. And so I reached out to them and they said, well, no, those 20 hours aren't CPE qualified. So I was like, oh my God. So one of my staff said, well, there's these 1 and 2 hour things you can take that are fairly informative I'd never heard of before. And so I started taking these 1 and 2 hour classes, and Dawn happened to be in one of them, and it was talking about, file storage. And the file storage system that we've been using for a very long time was called FileHold. And the only reason why we're using that is because we've been continue to use Lacert, which is a fantastic tax program, but it had its own document management system, but it discontinued their document management system. So we had to quickly find something else, and we went to this other program that really just was kind of archaic in a way. So I was really interested in finding out a little bit about SmartVault. Well, needless to say, Dawn was on the program, and she started talking about how she's a big softball player. And
those back in the day.
Yeah, wow, I have two boys, and they both play baseball, and they're at the age now, they're pretty close in age together, but they're at the age where they have to be on 2 separate teams right now. And so it was my turn to coach the younger one's team. Oh. And their practices start at the end of February, beginning of March. So I had to be out of here, as Dawn had mentioned in her thing, her program. I had to be out of here at like 4:30 on some days in the middle of tax season to get home, get them to their practice or later to their game. And she was talking about how when using just software in general, how she could really leverage that to kind of help her in her business and kind of, leverage on that to get her out of the office. And I believe he was saying 3 or 4 o'clock some days. And I was like, this is exactly what I need, because number one, we always seem to have some challenges with personnel. And unfortunately, one of our personnel, a guy had been with us for 10 years, he had passed away in December of 2020. So we'd been without him for about a year, but really he'd been here for so long. He really was my right-hand guy here. It was tough. And I wanted to see if we could use technology to to have, certainly you got to pay for it, but to have a smaller team and still be as effective. And it sounded like SmartVault had a lot of bells and whistles that we really wanted to try and to utilize. So literally at the end of the presentation, they asked, do you want to know more about SmartVault? And I was like, YES, so I did a little webinar with them. They showed me the things they could do. It's a wonderful program, and it just has so many things that makes not only the staff and the reviewers more efficient, but even the admin. And I don't even know where you'd like me to start in terms of efficiencies, but I will say, for me, the biggest one for me was there was the drag and drop capability. So if I got an email from someone, I didn't have to create a PDF and then go find it on my shared drive and pull it in to the FileHole program. All I had to do was just right over, I use two screens, right over into SmartVault, and then you can change the name of it to say confirmation that they did make first quarter payment or whatever it is. And it's just right there, it's there forever. And the same thing with spreadsheets or anything else. It was just right over. And that was one of the things I loved. The other thing, and there's so many things I love about this program, but one of the things I loved was you can actually print out of Lacerte. Now, it depends on the program you're using, the tax program. You can print directly to SmartVault, to that client. Right. So if you're working on John Smith and you're ready to print the return, you go file print. And we configured it because in Lacerte, you can print out 4 different copies. So what we did was we made one of the copies just the e-file forms. So when we hit print, it would print 2 copies, one just the e-file forms and then one the tax return copy. And the reason why we did that is because our admin would separately send the e-file forms normally through Right Signature. And before, they had to go into the one PDF and take those 2 out and send just those 2. Now they had their own copy and they loved it. So we just called it, John and Jane Smith 2021 signature pages, and they go right in and so it made them even more efficient. And you didn't have to go in and, go through the PDF and, and kick out the pages and then save the file and then import the file into a program. It was just, it saves those 2 just alone save so much time. And then, certainly SmartVault has so many other capabilities. You can change the name of anything you want on the fly. You can move things around. I just finished an amended return today. Some poor fellow just got a 1099 late from his brokerage people. And just not to confuse anything, we got, a section called tax returns. So I made a subsection called original and put the original stuff in there. And another subsection under 2021 is amended. So I told the admin people, I said, just look at the section called amended when you're putting all this together, give to them. They're like, oh, that's great. That's so wonderful. But to create different subdirectories and kind of tailor it to yourself is phenomenal as well. So it has saved it. We did more returns this past tax season than we've ever done. Certainly we can't necessarily compare to the 2 pandemic years too much because we had extra time. But even now that, the pandemic due dates have passed, we're still ahead of the game in terms of processing and completing the most number of returns we've ever done. And people say, well, how is that possible? I mean, Tax Caddy had definitely a lot. Not Tax Caddy, I'm sorry. The SmartVault had definitely a lot to do with that. We did use a program with Tax Caddy as well, but SmartVault was for every client. Tax Caddy was for, probably about 10 to 15% of our client base, maybe 20. So we used it for every day, for every client, and it just worked out so well. I mean, they had a little bit of training, but, once you get it set up, it's pretty easy to follow along. So we just set it up like we wanted it and just kind of roll from there. And now we have, an estimate folder for this year. So as we're going through estimate stuff, the client says, yeah, I did pay that Q1 and Q2 you told me to. I just right over and I changed the name to confirmation of, so then we don't have to ask them later because it's already there. Because sometimes they do go, hey, didn't you already ask me that? Because before, nobody ever really bothered to put a lot of correspondence into our document management system because it took so long to do. I mean, but the drag and drop feature was phenomenal. So anyway, that's really on the, the 1,000-foot level, how I love the program. And I mean, there's a lot of bells and whistles to this thing. When I was talking to someone the other day about it, I was saying we've kind of gone from when you had, your phone that was on the wall and you thought you were cool because you had the really long cord, so you could like go in the other room so your roommates couldn't hear what you were talking about. We've kind of gone from that to an iPhone 13. I mean, it's that big of a difference between our file hold system and SmartVault. So very happy with it. I'm extremely pleased with not only the training and the setup, but just the functionality of it. It's worked so well. And I really think every staff person here has said something about, hey, this is so much better. It's like, this is night and day compared to what we used to have. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's, sometimes when I'm talking to other professionals or doing a webinar, I'm like, yes, I want to solve for me, of course. I mean, that's just a natural. Yeah. I want to make my life better. But you're right. Like what we're able to do for the admins. I know Tracy in my office is just like, the systems of onboarding onboarding clients, whether they're new or even, I say we onboard clients every year, really, because it's kind of like, well, I'm not going to make any assumptions they're coming back. So, I run through this whole quoting process and then we do this, but it's so automated with the technology.
Yeah.
I never touch that return until it's go time. And Tracy says everything's in SmartVault, which is great. But I just want, less clients are calling and asking for copies of returns. They, they may say, oh, can we have a copy? Sure. Tracy, we just kept the same process of, well, we're not going to still attach a tax return and password protect it. We're sending you a link. If you can figure out how to get into this thing, then we need to call your children or something. We need to get you to medical help. That's what I kind of think about it. But so I want to hear more about, so that was great. You implemented Smart. What happened the next baseball season is what I want to know.
Well, first I say, when people call and they have issues like that, we always say they're not Y2K compliant. So we either have to get their kids or their grandkids to help them out on these things. Sure. But, I did not miss a single solitary practice or game because of work. Now, one practice I did miss because it was raining like cats and dogs and it was about an hour away. And I just decided, you know what, some people did still make it out there that day, but they just kind of played in the mud and that's really wasn't a practice. But got every game, got every practice in and didn't miss a beat with tax season because we, again, did more returns, finished more tax returns than we have ever. And the offset of that is, and I tell my staff this every year, there's going to be a finite number of returns we can get done in a year. And if you can get more done during tax season while the conveyor belt's really running, it's going to make the summer and even the fall much better for you. And I will tell you that I actually took a nice 5-day vacation, which is the longest I have been out of the office in 7 years. And so now not only was it 5 days, I came back and I was off 5 more days because it was the 4th of July holiday. So I was gone from this office for 10 days, which is the longest I've been gone since my honeymoon 12 years ago. So, and everybody's like, well, how's that? We got so many more returns done during tax season. Well, why is that? Well, we installed new software. And, and still, if somebody told me 5 years ago, you'd be going to your kids' baseball games and doing coaching and things like that during tax season, I'm like, what are you smoking? I mean, I never get home until, at the earliest 6 o'clock. There's no way I'm going to be able to do that. But it's worked out really well for everyone. And, getting more returns done during tax season is critical. And I think the big challenge right now, and this is why I like to help other firms, is there's just no staff. You can't find competent staff people anymore. And that's, that's really difficult, especially when you lose a very seasoned person like we did. You can't replace them. I mean, and so what do? You try to use technology to kind of offset. So not just you, but your staff aren't here, 14 hours a day trying to get stuff done. You can leverage, we now have 3 admin people. So they're very talented, and there's a lot that they can do on the computer program side, and it makes us much more efficient. And we've also seen the efficiency some on their side, so they can do other things too now. So they can do things like work on billing, so, which is a little bit important too. But yeah, I love the program. I love the idea that technology is out there for us, and I'm looking at some more technology for us for this upcoming tax season, just to make us even more efficient. But you're right. When you have a client has their own ability to pull down a tax return themselves through a portal, they don't call you as much. Or even a copy of a W-2. If they have the access to it online, you don't get these constant calls, and obviously it doesn't really affect me anymore. But when I was first starting out, it did. But, I kind of feel for the admin people sometimes. Okay, we're going to password protected the last 4 of your social and the first 4 of your name, and they never can figure that out. And so they have to call back again. What's the password again? And so anyway, it's really eliminated a lot of that as well.
Well, and it's interesting you say that too, because like one of the things that we started doing as part of that, like I say, I call it the onboarding process, because until the documents are there, I don't even want to know what's going on. That's all Tracy.
Yeah.
One person, we do around 300 returns. There's 2 of us, but one is actually leaving. So it's interesting. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had her going into Lacert and entering names, addresses, phone numbers, all the like preliminary stuff, any dependent, she knows how to add a dependent. She's a smart woman.
Yeah.
So I've enabled her to even do things such as entering them into Lacert so that I can just get in there and get started. And so that is such a huge, like, you don't think about it, but that's could be 10 minutes, multiply 10 times 300 clients. That's a lot of time.
Right. And we actually tracked this year, and individual wise, we picked up 85 clients. So, it's a tangible amount. And here's the thing with admin that I found out: if you include them in more things, they feel better about their job. I mean, they're not just answering the phone and making copies. They're actually an integral part of the functionality. And I'm always like, look, because they sit towards the front of the office, I'm like, you're driving the bus. So, you're at the front, you're driving the bus. So, we're back here in the back doing stuff, but you're driving the bus. You're very important here. But if you show it by, as time goes on, certainly that's not something that somebody does in the first day they walk in the door, but as time goes on, hey, we're going to show you our tax program. We're going to show you how to do this. They get very excited about it. They're like, oh, really? It's like, yeah, I mean, you're a very talented person, and you know how to do data entry efficiently and effectively. And we just brought on a new office manager, and she types 80 words a minute. I mean, she probably can put information in the system faster than me. So, I mean, I know she can. So so I had one of my staff people, even though she's new and it's, somewhat unusual, but she's talented enough. I said, show her how to use Lacert so we get new returns in. We have a little checklist we go through, to make sure we update all our databases and all our stuff so that we can get the thing into SmartVault and get it rolling and send them the quotes. And then, you send them a quote and they reply back with a signed quote. Right into SmartVault it goes. I mean, it's lovely. So
yeah, that's the thing. When you nail down those processes, when you sit there and you're like, and I remember the days when I would have to, print the PDF and then upload and do all this other stuff, when you can just drag and move that over there, and I think it's so important for people to think about. And yes, the industry is definitely having issues with staffing. We know that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not that we don't want to hire people. I want to hire people, but I can't find people who want to work. I can't find people who are willing to sit in the chair for more than 3 hours, which I get it. I want you in and out of here too, right? But it's like there are things we can do to maximize the opportunity of, hey, this technology is going to work for me. So I'm going to give you an example. So you talked about, I'm so sorry to hear about your staff member who passed away. That's a staff member, by the way. That's not the way you want to lose them, right?
No. We've had several retire, but they told us long in advance they were retiring.
Right.
But this was quite a shocker, especially at the beginning of December when we're getting ready to go into tax season. It was, in the middle of COVID too, so it was not fun. So, yeah.
And you think about that, and one of the things I always talk about, and I don't know about you, what your plan is, but just succession planning and looking at a firm sale at some point.
Right, exactly.
I don't want to hand them keys to a building that they got to come in and figure out what's going on in there.
Everything, yeah.
Here's my username and password. I'll take that last two-factor authentication on my phone. Bang, that is now your bus. But it's turnkey where everything's organized, like in SmartVault. There's this organization of everything where they know where to find things because it's all consistent. They've got the integrations already established, all those things. Make your firm be more attractive to someone that's going to come in as opposed to a place with file cabinets everywhere.
Well, yeah, and also if something does happen to you, make it marketable, and because it can't be just, oh, well, John did that. Oh, I don't know, John did that. You have to be able to have a system in place. And I can tell you, I know that when I decide to sell all or part of the business here, whoever the buyer is probably going to come in and incorporate some of the things that we've done into their firm. So we're going to make them not only bigger in terms of client base, but we're going to make them more effective. That's my goal. Because I mean, like, do you use SmartVault? No. Do you use blank? Do you use Lacert? No. I think you should, and here's why. And kind of go through the list of things, because a lot of big firms, they want to just use, one vendor and put everything on the cloud and just, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because there's a lot of great programs out there that aren't necessarily run by the big companies, but, we should be using them. Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question as we're thinking about what's happening next. Right? So roadmap, let's think about a roadmap for a hot second. I'll give you an example to give you a chance to thumb through your coconut there to figure out, like, for me and what's on John's next roadmap. I'll tell you what's on Dawn's next roadmap. My next roadmap is, because I am losing a tax preparer, I don't want to look for one. So I'm going to implement, and I've used this app before and I liked it, Gruntworks. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yep.
But Gruntworks to populate even just the simplest things. And then the other thing we're looking to do is to start actually mapping QBO files. I'm a desktop lover. I am always going to be committed to the desktop. I love it. And I use QuickBooks only.
Me too. Yeah.
Love the QuickBooks desktop. So even with QuickBooks desktop is to map, especially, all the business returns that we can between now and the end of the year, is to map all those files to Lacert.
Yeah.
At least we're able to pull, I can pull a P&L on a Schedule C, do a book to tax, see if it ties out. If it doesn't, it's likely depreciation because you still have to enter fixed assets. But the mundane posting to advertising expense, and be more of a troubleshooter as opposed to an entry person. So those are the two big improvements we're looking to make this year. What about you?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Gruntworks. We 2 years ago, we initiated SurePrep, which is similar to Gruntworks, and they have another program called Tax Caddy, which that solved another huge issue of ours, which is, I know you probably get this all the time. People will call you and say, Don, what else do you need from me? Because I don't remember.
Yes.
And so what Tax Caddy does is it incorporates a list out of Lacert that they had last year, and it goes down. And so you can drag and drop your W-2s, your 1099, and they can go back on at any time and see what else they're missing. And when they have everything done, it asks you, are you done? Because they may have something new that they know about. And when they say, I'm done, you get an email that says so-and-so is done. And then it pulls it into SurePrep, which SurePrep will take it and sort it based upon, it put the W-2s first and then the 1099s and expenses. And so you have one PDF with all the client's data in it. And so if you're looking for something, there's a little table of contents you can click on the PDF to go back and say, wait a minute, they had $400 in interest from SunTrust last year. Where is that? You just go back and say, oh, I must have missed that page. There it is. Or it's not there. And so then you got to reach out to them. But it has eliminated so many phone calls and emails, because who gets those phone calls and emails? The emails, they come to me, and I haven't even seen the return yet because it's still being prepared. So I have no idea what they're missing. So I got to go ask the staff, and then have to email them. But they don't even ask, because they can actually download an app on their phone, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm still missing my mortgage interest, so let me get that. And it's worked out really well for some people. For most people, there are some Y2K compliance issued people that just couldn't figure it out, and that's fine. We'll send you an organizer. It's okay. We have a few of those, but it's worked out really well. But again, it's using technology, whichever one you use and everyone you're familiar with, to try to get some of the work done for you. And speaking of population of your tax program, years ago when I was at Deloitte, we used Go System, and we had about 300 partnership returns, and they all basically were rental real estate. They had one rental property in each of them. So we were able to start mapping from Lotus 123 of all things,
wow,
into our Go System, and I created the map program. And so literally you get the financial statements done in Lotus 123, and you'd hit F1, F2 or something of that nature, and it all go right into Go System. And you're right, the one thing we almost always had to change was either meals and entertainment or depreciation, and then the return was done. But you talk about 300 returns, they all had the same GL and everything. The returns got done so much quicker because of that. But it's, again, I guess it's been my experience all along, is trying to use technology. Not necessarily, because when we first started talking about SurePrep, a couple people were thinking, well, am I still going to have a job? If you're going to, it's like, you can't replace people, especially talented people. And like you, we have a suction from, Richmond kind of sucks some people and they can pay more, and DC, so we have that challenge here where, it's even harder to find talent sometimes. But we're also fortunate enough that we have some older people that don't want to commute anymore, and they want to stay here in town, and they've been great employees over the years. So, but yeah, I would highly recommend you check that out and Gruntworks out, and see if it works for you, and see how well it'll work, especially, if you can try it out for 9 and 10, 15 deadlines, it'd be great. And then the mapping, I've looked at that before. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Haven't ever gotten there. I think probably because, we have such different GLs for everybody, but I think it's wonderful if you can do it. Let me know. I
will keep you posted on that for sure.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think, go ahead, you're going to say something.
I was going to say, the next thing we're really going to look at is actually another one of your programs that you've touted in your in your webinars in the past, which is Canopy. Yeah. We actually have, tomorrow morning, we have a demo on Canopy. So we're looking at that next to see. Yeah.
Very happy with Canopy. And I do a lot of resolution work. I don't know, we all do. But so anybody that's listening, if you do taxes, you do resolution work, because you're either doing non-filers or you're responding to notices, and that's representation right there.
Yeah.
Canopy has been awesome for me. And I used Canopy many years ago, and it wasn't where it is today. So one of the things I tell people, if you saw it 5 to 10 years ago, it is a totally different program.
I think most programs are, They are.
Well, they're not. That's a problem. If they aren't different than where they were 5 years ago, they're not improving. So that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, that's probably true too. Right? Yeah.
1, 2, 3, for example. So that's a funny thing you said that. But Canopy, the resolution where you need to do 433 for maybe a collections case.
Yeah.
This really great tool where you can actually send, they call it a survey. And basically it's collecting all the information that belongs on a 433, but more through a questionnaire. So the clients don't have to look at a 433 and be like overwhelmed, because it is overwhelming to look at it. And most people don't have OCD, right? They're just going to be like, oh, and skipping lines, and then they don't fill everything in. And then it populates the 433 and the 656 if they're doing an offer. And it just really streamlines and makes the client participate. and I've got great success in that.
That's nice. Now, it's not OCD, it's CDO, because that's the way it's supposed to be alphabetically, I've been told. So, just so you know.
I hear you.
Have a little bit of it, not as much as some folks, but I do have a little bit of it. And people tell me, especially staff, they'll tell me sometimes that, you're so picky. And I'm like, I'm not the picky one. It's the clients. You got to make sure you spell this word all the way out, or so-and-so is going to, be calling me. So, but we're excited to check that out and continue to work with SmartVault and Tax Caddy and SurePrep and see where all of it goes. Because it's just making us more and more efficient. Any viable program that we bring on, obviously there's a little learning curve to everything, but if you can do it, especially for October 15th for your individual clients, when I call them the usual suspects show up on October 1st going, oh my God. And it's like the 15th time in a row they've gone, oh my God, hopefully you can get it in there quicker and you're not working on a Sunday in October, where here in Virginia, it's really, really nice outside in October. So you don't want to do that. There's all kinds of festivals and fairs. And then obviously I got fall baseball coming up. So I'll probably be at a baseball field. So I need to make sure I'm efficient as possible.
Well, you got to and you probably already do this, John, but you got to implement the PIA fee. And that's just, you come on October 15th, there's a surcharge that you're getting whacked with.
Yeah, we call it the PITA fee. Yeah. The PITA fee. We actually, in our quote sheets now, put in a rush fee because some of these folks have been doing this for so long. Now they come in on October 7th and they're like, I'm really sorry, here's my stuff. I know I'm going to get hit the rush fee, but here you go. And it's not a cheap amount either, but if I've got to tell a couple of my staff they got to work on a Saturday because these people have been like twiddling their thumbs all summer, then they're gonna pay for it. And what I try to do with those things is too, if they've got to work on a Saturday, even though they're salaried, I'll get them some kind of bonus later for that, because we made more money off of it because they were PITA. So yeah, we have built that in on quite a few folks, and on a few they've been like, you guys are just too expensive and we're going to go out. It's like back when you were dating, it was the girlfriend you were trying to get rid of, so you never gave her any attention, and she finally was like, you don't ever pay me attention, I'm going someplace. It's kind of the same thing, so
you didn't get the hint.
Yeah, you didn't get the hint. I didn't call you. Well, we do call back, but it's going to be how much more this year? Oh, wow, that's a lot. So eventually they do go away. And with some clients, we just fire outright. But, for some of them that they go through the tax return with their microscope and it's like, why is this number like, it's like, look, let's not worry about that, because the numbers are right. I could have put this in office supplies as opposed to supplies, but it's a fully deductible expense either one, because it's only $300. Let's move on. Go back to doing whatever you do for a living, and let's roll from there. There's nuances. You're going to give yourself a heart attack trying to get down to that craziness of a level. But we've had people like that. So
that happens.
Yeah. So I think Canopy will be our next, and then some of the staff they didn't get fully trained on Tax Caddy last year, so we got a couple of new folks, our new office manager in particular. So got to make sure that they know how to run that, so they can kind of learn as they go for this. We call it the mini tax season coming up.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing about extension season. This is the time to try out new stuff and do something different and plan for it. And then real hardcore implementation in November and December. I like to keep November and December as light as possible. But then again, I think I like to keep all the time as light as possible. I've been falling into the trap of, it's 3 o'clock. You don't have to practice. Oh, I don't have practice, but I got something else I can do for sure than be sitting in here. So, that's
absolutely. I do some volunteer work too. So it's, if I can, you guys have to pick that a little bit ahead of time. You can't just, show up on the fly for that. But, I got better things to do, than sitting here punching in W-2s for somebody that decided to show up on October 14th. So,
right. Well, and I love that, John, because, I would say we're in similar age. I would think we're in similar age bracket. So, I remember the days, and you probably, when I talk about these briefly, is just, the 80-hour badge. Like, look how cool I am. I worked 80 hours last week. Well, you mean you were in the chair for 80 hours? And people like to say, Brolin, you're so busy. I said, no, I'm actually productive is what I am, because I don't want to just be busy. I don't want to be busy. I want to be productive. I want to get returns done and, take care of the clients as I need to take care of the clients, but then move on with my own personal life, because I don't want to deal with my personal life when I'm 80. Like,
oh yeah,
I'm going to be crippled probably by then with all the sports I've played and all the dangerous things I've done. But, so enjoy myself today, not 30 years from now.
Well, I have a lovely client who recently retired, and she talks about the go years, the slow go years, and the no go years. And she said, I'm in the slow go years now, so I need to get out and travel. And so I think they're either in Spain or France right now, her and her sister, because they're going to travel the world for a couple of years while they're still in the slow go phase. And I think that's great. Yeah. But you see that in the client base too. People retire, and then a few years later they're coming in with a walker, and it's like, what's going on? I got to have a hip replacement. So you got to keep up with your physical fitness. In fact, that's another thing I've done in the past couple of years, ever since we started putting in more technology, is at 3:00 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I leave and go to the gym. And I don't do it in the middle of tax season for sure, but the rest of the time I try to get out there and do that. And, to make sure I come, I have a personal trainer who's standing there waiting for me. So, I can't disappoint her, because she'll start texting me and be like, where are you? So, but, your health is very important as well. And you don't want it taken away from you. Between that and playing, coaching baseball and running around with kids, I seem to hopefully starve off the ill effects that I've seen with so many of my clients over the years. So, but if you're sitting at a desk being non-productive for 80 hours a week, which I know I wore that badge, all 6 years at Deloitte, but you're young then, but still, it takes its toll on you. And, some people say, well, my firm does, 1,500 tax returns a year. But then you start talking to the people a little bit more, and they're doing, 500 or 1040 EZs. And, it's like, well, okay, well, that's how come you can do so many, because I started asking what technology they're using. Oh, we're using this and that. And it's like, I personally know that those programs aren't very good. And I'm like, how? So then you find out that, it's not necessarily that big of a firm after all. They're just doing a lot of easy returns. I mean, we do some 1040 EZs every once in a while, but that's not really our forte for sure.
We do a lot of Schedule C's, Schedule E's, and do a lot of 1065, 1120S. We got a couple of C Corps. That's not my bread and butter, and I don't like doing 990s. I do them out of duress, if anything.
Yeah, I do. I'm on the board of one, so I have to do that, and then there's a couple others that we do. But it's, if they were bigger, if they were bigger, I'd, I know there's, we do some bookkeeping for a nonprofit right now for complimentary, because one of the officers there is one of our great clients, and he's a wonderful guy. So we kind of get roped into it, like my HOA. And first summer I was walking down the street, the treasurer at the time basically came up to me on his bike and said, I need you to be the treasurer.
You're like, okay.
I've been here 6 months. But anyway, so then I became the treasurer there, and everybody's like, you're going to be the treasurer forever, right? Right? Yeah. So anyway, you get those kind of things, but it's a little bit fun in a way, but it does take time, and you got to have time to do those things. And if you get your staff and everybody around you more efficient and effective, you'll see that time. And I've seen it, this last few years with the technology. We're more efficient now than we were when I had my right-hand guy with me, and it's because of technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, John, this has been amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being patient with us, trying to get the technology to work. Speaking of technology, but John and I are fighters. John and I fought through the technology challenges because we had the priority of seeing each other and talking about how, hopefully those of you who are listening, that you're going to take at least one thing away from this. But I can tell you, I know for myself, being able to coach and do something outside of this office, like changed my life a little bit, right? And for the better,
Yeah.
being able to go out with those boys and being on the baseball mound with them. That's stuff that'll be with those kids for the rest of their lives. And that's what they're going to remember. Dad was there. And I think that's so important. So John, thank you so much for joining me here today. And, you know, the DM Disruption is here to motivate people to do something different so that their lives can be better, not just themselves, but their staff and their clients in some capacity, right? They get their returns done faster. They like their refunds. And
If they get them done in February, they go out and tell all their friends. So it's like, you know, if we could keep doing that, even better. So,
well, John, thanks again from San Francisco. As I can see, you're out in San Francisco right now.
Well, yeah, as I told you before, I have to keep my location a secret because some clients will come and find me if I don't. But
I get it. Yeah. Well, thanks again, John. You've been awesome. Thanks for everyone for listening to DM Disruption. We'll talk to you next time. We're going to bring some more motivational content, especially from your peers. I think that's what people love the most. So John's awesome. John Coleman. We'll talk soon. Good luck with the baseball. And I'm sure we'll cross paths again soon.
Okay. Well, thanks so much.
You got it. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.